Chapter 2. What a Lovely Garden. Monday, April 6, 1992, 12 p.m., 2:30 p.m. The lunch bell was still vibrating in the air when Usagi Tosuke already had her bed open on her desk. Finally. Food. I swear my stomach was reciting poetry of despair. Her friends didn't laugh. They ignored her. Not even Ami, who always had a polite smile for her antics. The three of them were staring at the same spot in the classroom. Usagi followed their gaze, a pickled vegetable skewer halfway to her mouth. Mamoru Chiba was getting up from his seat. He did it with that strange calmness he had, as if time around him flowed at a different speed. In one hand, he carried a black leather notebook, thick, with slightly worn corners. In the other, a package wrapped in navy blue cloth that looked like a thermos, but wasn't quite. He slung his backpack over his shoulder and walked toward the door without looking at anyone. The entire classroom seemed to hold its breath as he left. Then, the usual murmur filled the space again. But the four friends remained silent. "Where is he going?" asked Usagi, the skewer still suspended. "Curious," murmured Ami, adjusting her glasses. "He's not staying to eat in the classroom like everyone else. Statistically, new students usually seek integration in common spaces. It is the opposite. He probably doesn't want to share," said Rei, crossing our arms. "Typical of private academy kids. They think they're superior." Makoto said nothing. She watched the door through which Mamoru had disappeared. There was something in the way he'd left, in how he held that notebook in the package, that felt strangely familiar. She, too, had been the new girl once. She, too, had sought out solitary corners to eat, far from curious or mocking eyes. What if we followed him? The other three stared at her as if she'd suggested summoning a demon. "What? No!" exclaimed Usagi, waving her hands. "Follow him. Like spies. What if he catches us? I'll die. I'll die right now. The probability of being discovered is high if we don't maintain a prudent distance and a stealth protocol," Ami analyzed, but her eyes sparkled with a hint of scientific curiosity. "This is stupid," Red declared. "I'm not stooping to chasing a boy like some stalker." Makoto smiled patiently. She knew her friends. Ami was intrigued, even if her rational mind said otherwise. Red was refusing out of pride, but deep down, she wanted to know too. And Usagi was already half standing from her seat, bento in hand, as if her body had made the decision before her brain. "It's not spying," said Makoto, picking up her own giant bento. "It's friendly curiosity. We're his classmates. It's normal to want to know where he spends his time. Besides, if he eats alone," her voice softened. "I know what that's like. And it's not fun at all." The other three looked at each other. Red sighed, but stood up. Ami nodded, almost to herself. Usagi was already at the door. Come on, before we lose him." They stepped into the hallway just in time to see Mamoru's tall back and white ponytail rounding a corner toward the back courtyard. Following Mamoru Chiba was like following a ghost. Not that he was sneaky. He simply moved with such absolute naturalness that he seemed part of the landscape. He didn't look back. He didn't stop. He walked with a clear destination in mind, as if he knew exactly where he was going. "Does he know the school?" whispered Usagi, crouched behind a pillar. "If it's his first day, how does he know where he's going?" "Perhaps he explored during break," ventured Ami, quietly. "Or he has an exceptionally developed mental map. His spatial orientation ability might be above average. Or he's a ghost and he's returning to his grave," murmured Rei. Makoto gently elbowed her. Mamoru stopped in front of the vending machines, in a shaded corner beside the gymnasium. The girls huddled behind a corner, peeking out just enough to see. The white-haired boy pulled a handful of coins from his pocket. He counted them calmly. Then, one by one, he inserted them into the machine and selected drinks. Clunk. A can of green tea. Clunk. Orange juice. Clunk. Strawberry milk. Clunk. Coffee. Clunk. Melon soda. Clunk. Mineral water. Clunk. Black tea. 7 cans. 7 different drinks. Usagi blinked. 7? Why does he need 7 drinks? "Maybe he's very thirsty," said Makoto, genuinely confused. "Or he's conducting a comparative experiment on sugar and caffeine content in commercial beverages," proposed Ami, eyes gleaming. "Though he'd need measuring instruments he doesn't seem to be carrying." "Or he's crazy," concluded Rei. "Definitely crazy." Mamoru put the cans into a cloth bag he was carrying. He arranged them carefully, as if they were treasures. Then, he resumed his path. The girls followed him. They walked through a narrow hallway that smelled of humidity and old books. They emerged into a small side courtyard none of them had ever set foot in. There was a storage shed, a few rusty bicycles, and at the back, a barrier of tall, overgrown bushes that seemed to mark the school grounds boundary. Mamoru headed straight for the bushes. "He's going to crash," whispered Usagi. He didn't crash. He parted some branches with his free hand and disappeared between them as if the earth had swallowed him whole. The girls stared at the spot where he'd vanished. "Okay," said Usagi in a faint voice. "He's definitely a ghost. Or a ninja. Or a ghost ninja. We have to see what's back there," said Mikoto, with determination. "What if it's a secret lair?" asked Usagi, equally terrified and fascinated. "Then we'll know," Mikoto replied. They moved forward carefully. Ami went first, analyzing the terrain. Red followed, frowning, clearly annoyed at herself for being dragged into this. Mikoto advanced with confidence. Usagi clung to Mikoto's sleeve, her heart pounding in her throat. They passed through the bushes. And they were left breathless. It was a garden. A tiny, hidden, forgotten garden. A circle of earth covered in soft moss, surrounded by tall bushes that isolated it from the rest of the world. In the center, a circular stone table, ancient, its surface worn by years of rain and sun. Around it, 6 stone chairs, solid, like something from a fairy tale. And beside the table, leaning over it like a benevolent guardian, an ancient cherry tree. It was in bloom. Petals of pale, ethereal pink fell slowly, swayed by a breeze that seemed to blow only in its spot. Some landed on the stone table. Others floated in the air, like tiny wings. Sunlight filtered through the branches, creating a mosaic of shadows and golden highlights across the scene. And in the middle of this living postcard, sitting on one of the stone chairs, was Mamoru. He hadn't seen him. He was leaning over his black leather notebook, a pencil in his right hand. The 7 drinks were lined up in front of him, like a small collection of colors. And the navy blue cloth package wasn't a thermos. It was a glass container. He had opened it. Inside, perfectly aligned like soldiers in a pastry army, were macarons. In soft, bright colors. Pale pink. Pistachio green. Lemon yellow. Lavender. Chocolate brown. Vanilla white. Raspberry red. Mikoto stifled a gasp. "Those macarons," she whispered, eyes wide. "He must have made them himself. They're too perfect to be store-bought. Look at the shine. Look at the marrying texture. That's professional pastry work. Or an obsessive's. Or a genius's. A boy who makes macarons?" asked Ray, incredulous. "Shhh, Usagi shushed her, not taking our eyes off the scene." Mamoru took a sip from the strawberry milk can. He set it down. He bit into a pink macaron. He chewed slowly, eyes half closed, savoring it. Then, he picked up his pencil and leaned over the notebook. And he started to draw. His movements were fluid, hypnotic. The pencil glided across the paper with a confidence that only endless practice could give. Sometimes he stopped, erased something with the eraser, tilted his head to observe the result. Then he continued. The girls were so absorbed they almost forgot to breathe. And then, Mamoru laughed. It wasn't a loud laugh. It was a soft laugh, like the tinkling of wind chimes. A genuine laugh, rising from his chest and illuminating his face completely. His heterochromatic eyes narrowed. His lips curved into an open, warm, contagious smile. He was laughing at something he'd just drawn. The girls froze. This wasn't the Mamoru Chiba they'd seen in class. The one with the neutral expression, the velvety voice, and the infinite distance. This was someone else. A boy laughing alone in a secret garden, eating macarons and drawing. A cheerful boy. Funny. Alive. Usagi felt her heart skip so hard she feared it would leap out of her chest. He's beautiful. Like an angel. An angel who draws and eats sweets and laughs alone. How can he be so pretty? It's not fair. It's not fair to my poor heart. Ami, beside her, analyzed at full speed. Spontaneous laughter is an indicator of emotional well-being and a personality that isn't afraid to express joy in solitude. His artistic output appears to be manga style, given the line work and panel composition I can glimpse. Interesting. Very interesting. Retta clenched her fists. Idiot. What are you laughing so hard at? You look like a little kid. A little kitten, and she couldn't find a derogatory adjective that fit. Because Mamoru's laugh was anything but derogatory. It was pretty. Damn. It's pretty. Makoto simply smiled. He likes to cook. He likes to draw. He laughs alone. He's a good guy. I know it. I know it from how he treats his food, from how he holds his pencil, from how he laughs. He's a good guy. Mamoru took another bite of the pink macaron. He kept drawing. Suddenly, he let out another laugh, this time louder, more spontaneous. He brought his hand to his mouth, as if to contain it, but couldn't. His laughter filled the little garden like a melody. And then, he choked. The macaron went down the wrong way. Mamoru let out a strange sound, somewhere between a gasp and a meow. His eyes flew wide open. He thumped his chest with his fist. Ack. A sharp cough, surprisingly high-pitched for a boy his size. Ack, ack. He tried to drink from the strawberry milk can, but only succeeded in coughing more. Tears began to well up in his heterochromatic eyes. His normally pale face took on a slightly rosy hue. He coughed like a kitten. Like a big, clumsy, adorable kitten choking on its treat. Usagi covered her mouth with both hands. She didn't know whether to run to help him or stay there forever, watching the most adorable scene in the universe. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. He's dying. And it's the prettiest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm a bad person. But it's so. Ami started to get up, but Makoto stopped her. Wait. He's almost done. Retta, beside her, had stopped feigning disdain. She watched Mamoru with an insufferable expression. Her lips twitched slightly, as if she were waging an internal battle between genuine concern and the urge to laugh. Mamoru finally managed to swallow. He coughed a couple more times, said after now. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. He took a deep breath. He looked around, cheeks still flushed, as if afraid someone had seen him. Seeing no one, the girls were perfectly hidden behind the bushes, he sighed in relief. He ran a hand through his long white hair, brushing a strand from his face. Then, as if nothing had happened, he picked up his pencil again. And went back to drawing. And went back to smiling. Usagi felt herself melting. Literally. Her legs turned to jelly. She leaned on the kobo to keep from falling. And then disaster struck. As she moved, her foot slipped on a moss-covered root. She lost her balance completely. She grabbed the first thing she found, a low branch of the cherry tree. The branch, old and dry, snapped with a crack. That echoed through the garden's silence like a gunshot. Mamoru looked up from his notebook. His heterochromatic eyes fixed directly on the bushes where they were hiding. The silence that followed was so thick it could be cut with a knife. The girls froze. Usagi still held the broken branch in her hand. Her face was a poem of horror and embarrassment. Mamoru stood up from the chair. Slowly. Without hurry. He walked toward the bushes. His steps were soft on the moss. He parted the branches with one hand. And there they were. All four. Huddled. Frozen. Guilty. Mamoru looked at them. His expression was a mix of surprise, confusion, and amusement. He raised an eyebrow. The one above his green eye. The left one, the pink one, sparkled with a glint of curiosity. Tosuke-san. Mizuno-san. Ino-san. Kino-san. His voice was neutral, but there was a slight tremor in it, as if he were holding back a laugh. Can I help you with something? The silence stretched for 1 second more. 2. 3. And then, Usagi, in a panic-induced outburst, blurted out the first thing that came to her mind. We were looking for the bathroom. Ami, beside her, covered her face with one hand. Retta rolled her eyes so hard they nearly got stuck. Makoto sighed, resigned. Mamoru blinked. The bathroom is in the main building. On the first floor. Next to the teacher's room. Oh. Usagi swallowed. That's right. How silly of me. Heh. Heh. Another silence. Even more unbearable. Makoto stepped forward. Her sense of honor wouldn't let her continue the charade. Okay, no. We weren't looking for the bathroom. We followed you. We saw you leave the classroom with your notebook and your package and we got curious. I'm sorry. We shouldn't have spied on you. Mamoru looked at her steadily. Makoto held his gaze, back straight, ready to face the consequences. Mamoru's lips curved into a smile. Not a mocking smile. A warm, genuine, amused smile. I see. Well, since you're here, would you like to come in? There's room for everyone. He stepped aside and gestured toward the stone table beneath the blooming cherry tree. The girls looked at each other, disbelieving. Then, one by one, they emerged from their hiding spot and entered the secret garden. Sitting at the stone table was like entering another world. The air smelled of cherry blossoms, damp moss, and something more. Something sweet and woody. Mamoru's scent, permeating the little clearing like an invisible presence. The petals fell slowly, landing on the table, on the drink cans, on the black leather notebook. Mamoru waited until everyone was seated. The girls occupied 4 of the stone chairs. He sat in the 5th. One chair remained empty. I don't think we've been formally introduced, he said, with a slight bow of his head. I am Mamoru Chida. Nice to meet you. It was the second time he'd introduced himself that day. But this time was different. It wasn't an introduction for the whole class. It was for them. Only for them. Makoto was the first to respond. Makoto Kino. Nice to meet you, Chiba-kun. And I'm sorry about the spying. Really. It won't happen again. Mamoru shook his head, dismissing it. Ami was next. Ami Mizuno. A formal pleasure, Chiba-kun. Your English proficiency in class was remarkable. And your choice of this location is optimal for concentration. Mamoru looked at her with a glint of appreciation in his eyes. Thank you, Mizuno-san. You also answered very precisely in mathematics. Ami felt a pleasant warmth in her chest. It wasn't an empty compliment. It was genuine recognition. Red simply said, Redhino. Just her name. No frills. No smiles. But no hostility either. Mamoru nodded, accepting her terseness without offense. And then it was Usage's turn. I'm Usage Tosukino. Nice to meet you, Chiba-kun. Her voice was barely a thread. Her cheeks were the same color as the raspberry macaron. Mamoru looked at her a moment longer than necessary. Tosukino-san. The girl with the dumpling buns. Usage instinctively touched one of her buns. Why yes. That's me. It's a distinctive hairstyle. It suits you. If Usage had been a manga character, she would have shot into the air in a cloud of hearts at that moment. Since she wasn't, she simply stood mute, mouth slightly open, cheeks blazing. Mamoru cleared his throat slightly, as if he himself felt a bit flustered by the compliment he just let slip. He gestured to the table. I brought extra drinks. And macarons. They're nothing special, but if we like. Makoto was already grabbing a chocolate one. Chiba-kun, these macarons are a work of art. Did you make them? Mamoru nodded, a little surprised by her enthusiasm. Yes. I like to cook. Well, only desserts. Savory things, I'm terrible. The last time I tried to make rice, I had to throw away the pot. Makoto burst out laughing. I'm the opposite. I cook savory food really well, but desserts turn out edible. Barely. You should teach me. If you teach me not to burn rice, it's a deal. They shook hands, sealing an impromptu culinary pact. Ami smiled, watching the interaction. Red had picked up a green tea macaron and was nibbling it silently, without complaint. Usage was already on her 3rd macaron, strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate. Mamoru watched her with a mixture of amusement and wonder. Tosukino-san, you have an enviable appetite. Usage choked. Again. Not on the macaron, but on her own saliva. She started coughing. Ack. Mamoru handed her the strawberry milk can. Drink. Slowly. Usage obeyed. She took a sip. The sweet, cold liquid soothed her throat. She looked up. Mamoru was looking at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Concern, perhaps. And something more. Something warm. Thank you, she murmured, handing back the can. You're welcome. Please try not to die in my secret garden. It would be a problem to explain. It was a joke. Mamoru Chiba had made a joke. And he'd called the place my secret garden. The girls laughed. Even Riri offered a quick smile, which she hid behind another bite of macaron. Ami pointed to the black leather notebook. Chiba-kun, if it's not too forward, may I ask what you're drawing? Mamoru hesitated for a moment. Then, with a slight shrug, he opened the notebook and placed it on a table so they could see. It was a manga. A romantic manga. But with a comedic twist. The protagonist was a clumsy, gluttonous girl, strangely familiar, who falls in love with a mysterious white-haired boy. Coincidence? The dialogue was clever. The characters' expressions, exaggerated and funny. There was a scene where the girl tries to cook and nearly sets the kitchen on fire. The boy, instead of getting angry, laughs and offers her a cake he made. "It's beautiful," exclaimed Makoto. "And it's really funny. Look at her, with the flaming frying pan. Poor thing. It has a very defined style," observed Ani. The use of motion lines and facial expressions is notable. It conveys a lot of emotion. "Not bad," conceded Ray, who leaned in discreetly to see better. Yusuke said nothing. She was reading the manga. Her eyes scanned the panels. She saw the clumsy girl. She saw the white-haired boy offering her pastries. She saw the way they looked at each other. And she felt a strange pang in her chest. Something between envy and hope. "It's really nice," she finally said, quietly. "I wish someone would draw me like that someday." Mamoru looked at her. His heterochromatic eye settled on her with an intensity that made her shiver. "Maybe someday," he said, simply. Time seemed to stop in the little garden. The cherry petals kept falling. The sun kept filtering through the branches. The girls were still there, sitting around the stone table, sharing drinks and macarons with a boy complete stranger. He wasn't anymore. Mamoru looked at his wristwatch, a simple one, black leather, contrasting with the solar system bead bracelet on his other wrist. "We should go back. Cleaning starts in 15 minutes. None of them wanted to leave. But they got up. They collected the empty cans. Mamoru put away his notebook in the glass container, now nearly empty. The macarons had flown. They walked together back to the main building. They were no longer a group of girls and a solitary boy. They were something more. Classroom cleaning was strange. Mamoru swept the same area as Makoto. They exchanged a few words about recipes. Ami, wiping desks near them, listened attentively. Red, erasing the blackboard, watched them out of the corner of her eye. Yusuke, supposedly emptying trash bins, kept looking at Mamoru. At one point, he looked up and caught her. She looked away so fast she almost twisted her neck. He smiled to himself. Moral education class was soporific. The teacher talked about the importance of small gestures and coexistence. Mamoru, who normally remained silent, raised his hand. "I think small gestures, like sharing a meal or a quiet space, are what really build trust. More than big words." The girls knew it. He was talking about what had just happened. Red, surprisingly, nodded silently. Ami wrote the sentence verbatim in her notebook. Makoto smiled. Yusuke felt her heart swell. And then, when the clock struck 2:30, the dismissal bell rang. The girls gathered their things. Mamoru did too. Before leaving, he approached the group. His scent of vanilla, sandalwood, and something sweet enveloped them. "Tosuke-no-san. Mizuno-san. Ino-san. Kino-san. Thank you for the company. It was pleasant." He gave a slight bow of his head. Then, he left. The girls looked at each other. He's very strange," said Yusuke in a dreamy voice. "But strange in a good way. A very good way." "He's a deserbeak," said Ray. "That's all. And he draws. And he laughs alone. And chokes like a cat. Nothing special." But there was a strange tone in her voice. Almost affectionate. Ami smiled. "I think we learned a lot today. About him. And about ourselves." Makoto nodded, with a radiant smile. "I like him. He has good taste in food. And in secret gardens." They left the classroom together. As they walked down the hallway, Yusuke turned for a moment to look back at the empty classroom. A question floated in her mind. Will we go back to that garden? She didn't know. But, for the first time in a long time, the first day of school hadn't been torture. It had been a beginning. The first day of school had ended. And something new, fragile, and as bright as the cherry blossoms, had just begun. Esto no importa es solo para el diálogo para que no se borre parte del audio original porque mi.
Thanks for watching and being here. subscribe and like, comment what you thought of the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!
Deixa tudo acontecer, deixa tudo acontecer. Hoje a noite é pra gastar tudo que a gente quiser. Bebe, bebe, depois desce. Gira e não esquece, gira, gira, não esquece.